Hi, this is Jerry Borrowman. Today I want to talk about my new book, Catastrophes and Heroes, being released by Shadow Mountain in 2020. Today's short presentation is called Before the Catastrophe, pictures of the 8 stories before the terrible thing happened. Hope you enjoy it. Let's take a look. So here's a picture of the cover of the book, both in CD, Audible, and of course print version. This gives you a hint as to what the first story might be about. Let's take a look. In 1865, the Mississippi steamboat Sultana was engaged by the federal government at the end of the Civil War to take freed Union prisoners who had been imprisoned in terrible camp conditions in the South and bring them north so they could be mustered out of the Army. Many of these men were already sick when they got on the boat. The 2 people responsible for chartering the boat and the captain of the boat were paid a fixed fee for each soldier who was transported. And so you can see a picture of the boat shortly before the catastrophe that was wildly overloaded. The boat didn't sink, but because it was so top heavy, it created problems for the boiler. So that's story number 1. The steamboat Sultana, a Mississippi steamboat. The second story is one of my favorite ever. It talks about Scotland's Tay Railway Bridge. Built in 1879, this was at the time the longest bridge in the world using a variety of techniques. It should still be standing today. Its successor is, but the designer of the bridge took shortcuts, and it led to a terrible outcome for people on one particular train on one particularly windy night. The third story talks about E.H. Harriman, president of the Union Pacific and Southern Pacific Railroad, who pretty much against his will was drawn into a fight against a catastrophe unfolding at the lower end of the Colorado River. A canal had been cut. Today, you have the All-American Canal that brings water from the Colorado to the Imperial Valley of Southern California. They first tried this in 1906, and the results were nearly disastrous. A complete shifting of the path of the Colorado River, the inundation of Southern California in what would have been the largest flood in human history. It fell to Harriman to use Union Pacific and Southern Pacific funds to fight it because the federal government refused to step forward and play its part in the role. The fourth story, oh my goodness, Mulholland's St. Francis Dam. This is just a little bit outside of Hollywood, California, and it was part of the extensive plumbing program that was to bring water to the city of Los Angeles from Northern California, from eventually the Colorado River, and this was one of the linchpins in the system. It's a dam that was designed first to impound 3,500 acre-feet of water, but Mulholland kept raising the height of the dam and the size of the dam to where it impounded 35,000 acre-feet of water, far beyond its capacity. This one raises the hair on the back of your neck. Number 5, the Oversea Railroad, one of the great accomplishments in engineering history. This was done by Henry Flagler, one of the original partners in the Standard Oil Trust that made the Rockefeller name so prominent. Henry Flagler is today still a hero in Florida. He built an amazing railroad that went all the way to Key West. This is not a story about anything that he did wrong or the builders of the railroad. Rather, it talks about the largest hurricane in recorded history ever to make landfall anywhere in the world, and the devastating consequences it had for some of the men who were trapped there because of the incompetence of their leaders who did not allow them to evacuate. The story number 6, wow, 1939, the Southern Pacific City of San Francisco. This was one of the first diesel-electric trains, and this was perhaps the most luxurious train ever to operate on American rails. This is a story of malice and incompetence. It's one where a single individual caused a great tragedy that caused loss of life and limb. in the Nevada desert. Number 7, 1940, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. This was an amazing accomplishment, built with the latest engineering, but unfortunately, incompetent engineering. You may have already seen videos of the bridge. It was called Galloping Gertie because the the deck of the bridge would twist and undulate in the winds, leading to tragic consequences. And our last story, oh dear, I cheated here. I showed a before and after picture. Take a second to study it. 1963, Italy's Vajont Dam. At the time, the highest dam in the world, greater in size than the Hoover Dam, at least in terms of height. It was built as a result of greed, despite known engineering hazards that placed the dam and the people below it at great risk. I'll just give you this little bit of a teaser. There was a shockwave created that exceeded the force of the blast of the bombs at Hiroshima, Japan. Whew, this is quite a story. Well, that's what Catastrophes and Heroes is about. 8 true stories that are brought about by incompetence, malice, or greed. You can purchase the book or the audio version of the book from multiple sellers. There's a link shown below, and it'll be with the YouTube video. I hope that you take time to get the book, and I hope you enjoy the stories as much as I enjoyed researching them. And there are lessons to be learned and heroes to be celebrated. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.